So we have questions today. Anonymous asks, Bird, is it difficult being so goddamn hot?
Okay. The answer to that is sometimes. Sometimes. You know, I mean, it has its perks. It really does. Like, you know, but then there's also like all the stories I've been telling lately of the creepy girls in my life, and you know, it comes with the territory. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of thinking back. We were playing Scrap Mechanic yesterday, and I just told a story that I still have trouble believing, which was like one of my best friends from high school. His girlfriend wanted to like cheat on him with me so bad, and this was like a 2-year thing. She just would not let up about it. So, I mean,
and was he aware of
the
this?
Territory? I don't know. Probably he never once brought it up because
if they were aware, then I'd be really concerned about how it was going on for so long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were in an awful relationship anyway. They were in an awful relationship. So
you don't say.
Yeah, really.
I didn't pick up on that from any of the earlier clues.
But,
all right, another question for Bird.
I mean,
if Oh No Necromancer was part of a double bill, what would you name the other show?
Oh, I see. So I had 2 one-acts. So it'd be Oh No Necromancer, and then usually when you do things like that, the other bill is somewhat
I feel like
related.
It should be yes, please, Vikings.
It's related, but it also has to be a foil.
It has to be, it has to be dramatically like different enough. So something like Yes, Please, Vikings is actually like that's a kind of a believable one. Or but it wouldn't be like so like obviously named. It'd be something like The Viking Came Home for Dinner or something like that. So that's what I'd go with. The Viking Came Home for Dinner.
Grandma got run over by a Viking.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
That's bizarre.
Well, it's
this Oh No Necromancer thing has gotten some serious meme legs.
Okay,
won't die.
Shall we dive immediately into that now? Seeing as
into what?
The remix that.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, somebody sent in. Somebody scraped the audio of Bird saying "Oh No Necromancer" and then turned it into a song.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it made into like a? It's like made like a schmoyo thing.
Yeah, Orange Immortal made a "Oh No Necromancer" remix.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Okay, are we listening to it?
It was made with my blessing. He asked for my permission, and I said yes, thinking that it would never actually materialize.
Why don't we do a 3-2-1 play just so everybody's on the same page at the same time? I got it up.
All right.
I have it up. Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
I love that.
It's got like a dub feel to it. Oh no, Necromancer! 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 Oh no, basically went like, oh no, Necromancer! Oh no, Necromancer!
I'm pretty down with this remix.
We just need to figure out how to add it to OC Remix now.
Oh no! Just play this behind Scrap Mechanic.
This shows up at random in the playlist.
That would be great. I mean...
Oh, jeez.
At the very, very, very beginning, I thought I was listening to one of those automatically generated beats that like a Casio would do.
A little bit. It kind of had like a very Jamaican kind of dub feel to it. I didn't realize it'd become like a dubstep type of thing.
Yeah, it starts playing.
I'm sure we get like music that isn't just memes.
Yeah, his actual music, which sounds decent, but it's not Oh No Necromancer, therefore no interest.
I think if the vocals were a little bit clearer, and more melodic, then maybe it would work better. But I
If
think
there was
you
more
have to
than
do
1 2 seconds,
balance.
great.
There's more than one line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've done it, Bird. You've
True.
become this podcast's first meme.
Hey,
Well,
I'm all right
Dubious
with it.
honor indeed.
I don't know. Wasn't Shmoo the first meme that like kind of we swept under the rug really fast?
I don't know if it can be a meme if
No,
literally
Wongle's the
nobody
scrap
picks
mechanic
up on it besides us.
We picked up on it
That's
so
just-
hard.
But we did it to
But
ourselves.
I was going to
Did
say,
it
we
to-
didn't actually share the meme with
That's just an
anybody.
inside
Fair
joke
enough.
of us laughing
That's
about
a good
sound.
point. There is a difference
Yeah.
between an in-joke and a meme.
And we're also just ripping the joke directly from South Park.
South Park, yeah.
Well, you guys were. I was.
Well, that's because you don't know anything, so you just you soak it up like an empty culture sponge.
Birdlore was the first meme. Birdlore wasn't born in this podcast, but Birdlore is perhaps actually the oldest meme born
our
of this
group?
group.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also still probably my favorite meme. I like Birdlore a lot.
It kind of
All right,
stopped.
let's do more of a genuine question next.
Okay.
Anonymous
Okay.
asks, do you play tabletop RPGs, and if yes, would you consider recording actual play sessions?
We've
Oh,
been
you mean
down
the
this
game?
path.
We tried it. I think I just was recording them. Bird was streaming it. But we did actually try doing some tabletop stuff for at least a little while.
Did you guys try like Settlers of Catan or anything along those lines?
No.
That's not a
Well,
tabletop
okay.
RPG. That's just a board game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a board
Yeah, so they're
game.
talking about D&D, Call of Cthulhu,
RPG,
Shadowrun.
not just tabletop
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you were looking at tabletop games.
Yeah,
this
I
morning.
bought
Yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of tabletop sim
Yeah, tabletop
DLCs.
RPGs are actually way more filmable than tabletop games because of how little of it is visual. Because
Yes.
tabletop
Yeah.
games are unfilmable. Like
Yes.
you don't realize it till you try to point a camera at one. Because I've done this before on our tabletop
Oh,
sessions.
no. Well,
Like,
so much of a
normal
tabletop
houses
game
are
is
so
grounded entirely in your
brown.
imagination. Anyway.
Yeah. Like
So,
normal
like-
houses are so dim though, and like brown and like unfilmable that like you cannot point cameras that normal people own at tabletop games and see any of it and have it show up on a camera. Like it's terrible. It's like
I'm
so, like,
surprised that no one's tried modeling out, the pieces on the board and.
They have.
everything
Actually,
else.
there are a
Yeah,
couple
they
of things on the tabletop sim workshop that are just straight up like
'Cause I thought
D&D
they-
assets.
Back-
I thought
yeah.
they had Risk and other things.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, they
that's
got
why
that-
that's why the
they got
tabletop
that too.
simulator is so appealing is because we suddenly have an option to film like 3D
Yeah.
rendered, fully lit, like
Because we did
recreations of tabletop games.
we did stuff with Roll20.net, but it looked like
Right.
ass.
well,
Yeah.
And having something to manipulate in tabletop sim might actually be what we need. Because
Yeah.
that's why I've always shied away from it, because there's no easy way to turn it into something watchable.
well, I mean, at least Bird, weren't you streaming our D&D sessions or?
I was, and I had to resort to drawing fan art the whole time because
Right.
like watching Roll20 itself was
Hella
like
boring.
it was incredibly boring for
Which
my
is
audience.
why I
So
was
that's why I just
intrigued-
MS painted art everything.
I think a lot of
Yeah,
people basically treat tabletop stuff though as RPGs as being like podcasts. To
Yeah,
the point
something
where like
to
I've
listen to
actually
on the
found a
side.
fair number of actual podcasts that are D&D campaigns on
yeah, there
iTunes
are
and stuff. Because
ton
there's
of
no
them out
reason to show
there.
stuff.
Yep.
There's a ton of them out there, but a lot of the ones that have higher production value have small animated segments edited into
Oh
it.
yeah,
And,
Yeah, but you got to pay somebody to make those.
because those are massive media companies most of the
Yeah,
time.
they're-
yeah.
Even like those small animation is really expensive. to
Shell
put together.
actually really
we're
wants
we're
to.
no Will Wheaton and we're no Harmon.
Yeah, Shell
really.
actually really wants to try your hand at that sort of thing.
But it would probably be more like Japanese RPG style where you have the people discussing
fine.
with one another on the sides, and then maybe you have a couple of animations specifically for character attacks or casting spells, but
I wonder if it
I don't
almost.
know.
Fine.
I wonder if that'd be a viable way of handling visual components to a D&D session would be to program like a visual novel type game where you can enter all the
Precisely.
text and the static images and everything, and
if
have that
battle-
animate.
That could
If
work,
battle-
yeah.
yeah,
That'd be an
and if-
interesting way to do it.
And if battle was done in a like Final Fantasy turn-based kind of manner, where character sprites have specific attacks programmed into them too, like also like Pokemon and such, then yeah, the only thing that you would have to worry about would be maneuvering around a field of play. But so long as you do have that grid built in some manner of doing it, I mean, yeah, then you could figure out the range for your spells and attacks and such. It'd be quite the endeavor. That would be a good thing to work on someday.
That's a scary amount of work.
Yeah.
How did we get an entire console generation of Wii U with no proper D&D style game?
It's dumb.
It's the whole point of having asynchronous multiplayer.
It's not going to
make
money. That's the
or
problem.
Asymmetrical multiplayer. Well, yeah, that's why nothing was made on the Wii U. That isn't Nintendo. There's a reason why Zombie U awkwardly came out as Zombie on everything else a few years later. Like, we need to make up our money that we didn't get back on this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to have a
some pretty good
weekly
Wii U games.
I used to have a weekly role playing session with that I'd actually commute to, and all my friends would meet up and we'd play D&D campaigns and stuff, and it always kind of petered out because it's hard to be consistent about that stuff. So we played.
3 of my friends
we
moved away.
started and didn't quite finish 4 different campaigns, and we also dabbled with Vampire the Masquerade and Shadowrun.
I played one session of Vampire the Masquerade, and that game's rule set is very broken.
Yeah.
I think Wander's brother recently told us that he was actually partaking in a Star Wars campaign.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars Empire, was it? Except they had it set between episodes 3 and 4. So they were actually
well, that's what the campaign setting actually does, because it's got the most it's got the most amount of lore around.
Episodes 4 and 6.
No, 3. It's definitely 3 and 5.
Oh, okay.
Kind
What's
of,
Star
because
it's
it's loose. Come on, Bird. Not during the podcast.
Okay.
Do it harder, Bird.
You can do that during Scrap Mechanic.
Oh, so I assume it's because you have a face cam up and you don't want people to see your look of disgust.
There was a look of disgust, in fact.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
I'd be up for doing an entire tabletop RPG session thing, even if it was just a bunch of face cams and talking and no visual component. I'd even be fine with that.
I'd like
to do that if we were actually in the same room together.
Yeah.
The hard things, of course, are getting a group together and also having a DM that knows what they're doing. I can't do it. So I haven't even properly finished campaigns so far.
I will admit, Keith, I specifically am kind of predisposed against having you part of any, because every time I hear about you playing a tabletop RPG, you sound like the worst person to have in a party.
Hey, what do you mean? What has he actually done?
You want to explain?
Yeah, what has he done?
Yeah,
I actually don't know what you're referring to.
You were talking about how you always played your characters specifically anti-party, and you'd walk away and go off on your own and be completely useless and stuff.
Useless is not accurate. It's just that I would pay attention to the fact on a regular basis that individual members of a party in an RPG are actually individuals and can do things on their own if they want to. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't like how everyone else treated the party like it was a Final Fantasy party, and you have to literally be locked to each other, and you can't wander off. And you can't
so that's
be
a little bit more okay. But
I would explore dungeons on my own sometimes, and just be I'm going here now because I think there might be treasure there, and if I find it on my own, it's just mine.
We came to decisions as a group.
Yeah, so the reason why I dislike that specifically is because I DM'd for years in middle school and high school and stuff, and players that did exactly what you just described were players that I would kill off and not talk to because they were too much of a pain in the ass. I had one guy specifically that did exactly what you would do. He's power to the individual, and he was a rogue with absurdly high height and move silently. He was impossible to spot for the most part. And I was trying to keep relatively fair here. So he could stealth through an entire dungeon. He wouldn't fight anything. He'd just sneak through and grab all the treasure before anybody else could.
I think the one issue with that is you'd have to make a separate campaign.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to run 2 campaigns, one for this one guy and one for everybody else. Mm-hmm. And in a video game setting, it works perfectly because you have, the entire thing's pre-programmed, so you don't have to have one singular person. But then
you run into issues of someone having completed quests before other people, and going, no.
Yeah, whereas eventually I just had his character get trapped in a room that required 2 people to get out of.
No.
And it was already in the design. It required 2 or 3 people to actually figure it out, and his character ends up drowning to death, and he was super pissy. I'm look, stick with the goddamn party.
Yeah,
It's
for me, what
super
happened
simple.
was that we were in a dungeon in some forest or jungle or something. I think it was supposed to be like a pyramid, like Mayan temples or something. And the whole party was stuck trying to solve a puzzle, and I just wandered down an unexplored. I instead wandered down an unexplored corridor, found a half-open, like supersized door. And I started sneaking through it to take a look inside and to see if I can find any riches for myself that I could hide from the party. And there was a giant scorpion inside that had clearly been raised inside the chamber that could not physically escape it. And let's see, there was like some sort of really weird, like it was fun because all the individual circumstances of the dice rolls led to telling a story where I would sneak in successfully, but then spot it, and then I'm like, well, deuces, like immediately trying to leave. And right as I'm in the process of leaving, I critically fail my check. And then the scorpion immediately wakes up and grabs me, grapples me, but it's like it's doing it by reaching its claw through the door because I was already escaping out the door. So I'm outside where it can't reach me except for the one claw. It grapples me and is like crushing me down to the point where I hit negative hit points.
Oh no!
And then it critically fails its grapple check.
Oh god!
It dropped me.
That's nice.
And then I'm just unconscious on the floor.
Yeah, that's a little bit better than you originally presented it.
Yeah. But, like, the problem is, like, if you, like, film that, like, it's all happening in your head, and you're just like, this is so cool, and people are watching and just like, yeah.
Which is why you need illustrated aids.
I would say that's a thing of demographics, where that's a matter of people who shouldn't be watching that kind of content, watching that kind of content.
Yeah.
Which is a problem with streaming, which you guys always have to run into, is that you have to try to appeal to your entire audience, but if you're just making videos, then the people that want it, and the people that don't want it are usually smart enough to move on after they realize what it is.
True, yeah.
That has been a consistent problem that I've eventually just kind of come to terms with. Yeah. That, like, I can't please everybody, so I'm just going to play what I want. And
like,
so, if it does come down to us doing a D&D campaign.
To a campaign, and people who are definitely not. And you can only really make stuff for one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the one that Wander was responding to was there was a city was in chaos, and our DM did not at all successfully set up the premise at all.
Oh,
so he
that
just
sounds good.
So we were in a city and stuff was happening to it. I don't remember the exact thing. I think it was like a zombie outbreak or something like that was supposed to push us together, but he didn't think it through at all and did not at all make any reason for us to go together. So what I did is all I did was role play my character in first person of like, oh, well, what would they do in these situations? And what he was doing kept not taking him any closer to all the other characters who he had never met and were in other parts of the city. So it was really the DM's fault for not coming up with any reason for us to be in a room together, where to some extent you would almost expect us just to get spawned in one room together, or like start the story with one individual character and then slowly introduce the other characters, like, oh, you walk into this bar, this other character's there, that's you, by the way, like that kind of stuff. None of that
Wander
happened.
started a campaign with us all in the same inn or tavern, and
Yeah,
then half
it was a
just
completely fresh group, so I was just trying to keep it basic, and
so I think
then they're all
that's
going
what
to
Wander
get
was
kidnapped.
talking about me being a troublemaker, because I just kept wandering away and not starting the campaign, but it's
so,
because I was role-playing.
So, like, I can understand the value of role-playing, but, like, one of the characters when I was DMing...
work with the DM sometimes,
Because, specifically, like, how many people were in that campaign that you were playing?
4?
It's not so bad. I think I had like 5 or 6. But one of the players right out was like, my character hates magic and wizards and anybody that would be associated with. And also like tangentially rather racist. And it was one of those where it's like, suddenly I went from having like kind of an okay like newbie party to work with to one character specifically is like antagonistic towards not only me as a DM, but like all the other characters. And so immediately as soon as I start like trying to narrate what happens, she was like, my character leaves. And then soon after, one of the other characters does that too. And like before I can even like come up with a reason for why they're there.
How the hell you deal with like a chaotic evil party or something?
But they were the ones that got captured. I used my magic.
If an entire party is chaotic evil, it works out.
Yeah.
If one person is chaotic evil, it doesn't.
If you have the one party member that's chaotic evil, so
you have to pander to them for the entire campaign.
You either do that, or
the other party members are forced to kill them.
Yeah.
Because...
So I had a I think it was Lawful Evil or something like that, but he was an asshole, and it specifically, like, friendly fire us left and right, so I just shot him with, like, 8 arrows in 1 or 2 turns and killed him, because I was sick of his shit. And
I usually try to play
was just like,
true neutral characters.
Yeah,
True neutral is alright. I like chaotic good, because you can do whatever you want, and still it's within your character to go along with the campaign.
Yeah. So I actually have some stories for why I was so heavy into role-playing as far as, like, trying to do, like, player knowledge and character knowledge and keeping those separate and everything like that, almost to a fault, was because other members of the party were so bad at separating player knowledge from character knowledge that it was actively breaking sessions. Like, in Vampire the Masquerade, there was a part where we were in some sort of neighborhood at night, and I just stood there on the lawn outside the house instead of going in, because I had no particular reason to want to go in, but two other members of the party, Jake and Ben, were both just in a hurry to, like, plunder these houses like they were dungeons or something. I'm like, this is a neighborhood in modern day. What is happening right now? They burst in, they set someone on fire. There's, like, a flaming person running out, and, like, they're like, what?
Okay.
Like, they're
and
like,
then the cops show up, and they're like, shit, vampires.
I'm literally just standing outside and staying away, and they're giving me shit for being a spoil sport. I'm like, I literally don't know what's happening. What are you guys doing right now? And a really bad one was I had a hunter die of mummy rot at one point. And I came back with a druid with a shape-shifting ability. The extended rules one in a D&D where 3.5, where you get a druid that doesn't get a familiar, but they can instantly shape-shift between characters and those individual shape-shifts, instead of being the monster from the monster manual, actually are like separate character sheets that you keep on your character. Yeah. So it's a really fun character to play. But I was being introduced to the party in the as part of this, like, jungle temple. And my solution was to be a passive observer. So, like, they would just periodically notice, like, in the distance, like, a white animal that wasn't engaging with them. And they'd be like a white wolf and a white owl and stuff like that. And I wasn't attacking them, and I wasn't talking to them or anything. And I was just observing, because I was role-playing a character that had encountered them just out in the wild during their mission, because I was trying to reintroduce a new character to the campaign.
They never
Ben
bothered
just starts
to interact
attacking
with
me. Ben just starts attacking random neutral wildlife that's not aggressive for no reason, even though he was like a lawful good monk. Because he knows it's me, and he's trying to force me, but, like, that's not how character knowledge works.
I only played one game of Vampire the Masquerade. I played 2 sessions of it. And I was a level 1 character that had the ability to summon complex machinery out of thin air, which was ridiculous. So I would be in situations where I just, like, min-max so hard that, no joke, my character was able to summon shotguns out of thin air and use them to kill people.
How does
it was the most overpowered.
Why would a DM even let you do that? After a certain point, I'd be like, you don't even understand what you're doing. You make a dud.
I did it, like, twice, and then we all just kind of realized that, like, the game itself, like, the rule set was just not working for us, and it was, like, everybody else had reasonable characters, but my character was so stupidly overpowered, because by level 3, I had the ability to, like, summon cars out of thin air. And, like, another couple levels, I would have been able to, like, make, like, airplanes, I'm sure.
Were these custom classes, or did they have just very bad class balance?
This very bad class balance. Like, there's one thing that allows you to, like, assemble, like, basically, like, summon things out of thin air, and, like, level 1 is you can summon, like amorphous blobs of, like, a given weight. And then, like, level 3 allows you to summon complex machinery, but, like, small ones. And I think, like, level 5 lets you summon, like, cars, basically. Tremere Path of Conjuring. Yeah, somebody in my... Wow, yeah, that's exactly right. Somebody in my chat instantly identified what I did. And he said I could have summoned nukes.
Yeah, I was actually thinking
Tremere
of
Path
that.
of Conjuring. That's what I did. I was able to summon, literally the solution to every single puzzle that was thrown our way.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Green Lantern.
It was a pretty dick thing to do. Yeah, it was like the Super Green Lantern. It was a dick thing to do.
So my character knowledge stories come to a climax that we would later call the Palpatine moment. which is that Ben was playing a lawful good monk, and he had like this oath of poverty or something. Like he just had multiple things layered on that were dependent on him behaving a certain way, and if he behaved out of character, that he'd break like either his class or elements of his class and stuff like that. And what happened is we used the deck of many or whatever it's called that you draw cards.
Oh, that thing is cool. I like
crazy
that.
things happen. Our turtle friend got like a property castle or something like that. The NPC guiding us on the quest also drew from the deck and drew another servant character, basically. So our NPC had an NPC that followed them around, which is weird. But the important story NPC died in a fight, and the other NPC flipped out for a second and like started screaming, and we incapacitated it. And immediately Ben was like, "We need to execute this thing. It's not even a real thing anyway, and it's dangerous and all this other stuff." While all of us are like, "We actually don't know if it's a real sentient creature. Like this is kind of a mess." But Sid, our ex-DM, but was now just a party member because we're trying to teach somebody else how to DM. He's like I'm sitting here being reasonable, like not in character, but in just as a guy sitting at the table trying to explain to Ben like how it's totally out of character for him to be trying to just straight up murder something like that. But Sid is like being Emperor Palpatine and just going, do it, and it's because he built up so much frustration over the last few months over Ben's lack of role playing that he just wanted him to do it so it would trigger breaking his character. And like the whole time I thought Sid was being unreasonable, but he literally had a plan the whole time, and I'm like, I should have just let this happen. That would have been perfect.
So some more comments from my chat. In Vampire the Masquerade, you can summon nukes by level 3, and by level 5, you can summon NPCs.
Jeez.
Wow. And then the other one is just a pun. Deck of many ways to ruin the campaign. That's not inaccurate.
It doesn't. It seemed like one of those types of bullshit items that you should not really include.
The thing about the deck of many things.
If you have a chill group, it's a pretty fun way to mix things up if things get stale.
Well, the problem is the deck of many things wasn't even that. Oh shoot! No, so there's two different.
He double dosed. He did it twice. Where one, he gave us all a wish, and then he also let us draw from the deck of many things. In the same campaign, and it was his first campaign.
Basically, he had no idea how to keep things going then. And it was just like, let's just introduce crazy.
The thing with Deck of Many Things, and I've had it show up in 2 campaigns. One, it killed the first character to draw from it, straight up, like it deletes them from existence. That's what
it's supposed to do.
Which was hilarious. And then the other one was, I drew from it, I think, like 10 times or something like that, and the NPC was also drawing from it. And
you're trying to open up like a portal to hell.
Yeah, so my character was like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Because he had just found out that his like patron deity was like the god of lies, effectively, and so I'm like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. So I just like start just drawing cards left and right, and then I get a wish, and I'm like, I wish the main villain out of existence. And that was it, and then we kept going. It was great.
That's pretty funny.
It's the only time Deck of Many Things has ever been fun.
I would like to end a campaign one day with like, it's like years after like one of the characters settled down and as a kid, and the kid decides to play 52 card pickup with the Deck of Many Things.
Oh no! Like they still kept it around.
Dumps it all on the floor and just like
and sings the song that ends the world.
I'd be actually really okay with a campaign that's like picks up as that starts, like just some
just some kid actually
like the premise of the entire deck is 52 card pickup of fate.
It'd be one of the best ways to have like a
find all the cards and deposit them back into their box.
Adventure.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be like a post-apocalyptic
to write the world.
Card captors D&D campaign. I think that would actually be a great concept. I would actually play that. That sounds really fun.
So when I try to explain D&D to people, like why it's interesting and stuff like that, is that like it's cool because you come up with an idea of vague concepts of like stories to have happen, but then you go into this, like all the fun comes from the detail, in that you have a concrete set of rules that governs everything, and the way that the results of those random chance entries to it manifest themselves is what makes the thing itself become like quickly the weird things that no one planned are the actual thing that you remember from the story and not what the actual goal was. Like, I don't even remember the plots of any of the campaigns I did, but like there was that moment of like I said before where I did like perfect stealth rolls over and over again, then failed at the last possible second, then the enemy did great grapple checks over and over again, then failed at the last second, like that kind of nonsense.
I am looking at this deck of many things, by the way. This is an amazing campaign idea. Like, I really like this.
Something's alignment was.
I'm reading them. They're awesome. Like,
they are great.
Did this question just spawn future occurrences?
I think it did.
I would actually be totally down to do it.
So I'm reading this now, and like, I think the way you do it is you'd have to do it like you could do it intentionally, like you knew which card was where, and you had to go get it.
Yeah.
Just because if you had to choose from these randomly, it could fuck up the campaign real fast. Like, the hilarious one would be like, imagine if you got the Knight card last, which is gain the service of a 4th level fighter. Like, who cares?
Just in time for the end of the world.
Yeah. Whereas, like, the other, some of the other ones are like, change alignment instantly. You were imprisoned.
You could even
know the answer
theme
to
all the
next
dungeons around the card that's contained within them.
That is a long campaign.
Well, yeah.
You could have multiple cards per dungeon, but like the point would be like you're specifically trying to like plan your route so it doesn't ruin your party. Because like one of them is you are imprisoned.
The character's intelligence score is permanently lowered. You have to get through that dungeon as fast as possible, or else everyone ends up being a stupid dumbass by the time you're done with it.
No. You have to set up a fall guy for that. One of the party members has to take that. Same thing with the imprisoned one, and the alignment changed instantly and stuff like that. Like, the idea of a party trying
so good.
It does sound good.
I love this idea.
All right, let's start the next podcast with 30 minutes of D&D campaign.
What?
And go from there.
I don't know about that.
One of my favorite little combat occurrences that happened at one point was I was playing as the shapeshifting druid, and I had what I basically used as a speed form, which is like a form of like direwolf that just had a ridiculous like run distance they could do per turn. We were assaulting a castle covered with like a line of archers. And I just, in one turn, sprinted around the corner of the castle out of line of sight without taking any hits along the way. The entire rest of the party is trying to slowly make their way towards the enemy and taking cover and all these things while I'm nowhere near them. I use stone bending or stone shape or whatever to create a hole in the wall.
Yep.
And it turns out to be their armory. And there's no one there. So I turn into a dire bear. And one by one, the dice roll makes the story more interesting because each archer keeps trying to shoot. The archers start critically missing, and the way that the DM interpreted that was that their bows would snap.
Yeah,
and so they'd have to go to the armory to get a new weapon so they could try to keep taking out the rest of the party. So one by one, a bunch of unarmed archers kept coming down to a room with a dire bear full of swords. And like it was the most weird ending for
bizarre.
The most bizarre, weird circumstance no one planned of how the siege falls. Is that basically the rest of the party was just dummies.
In our last campaign, the story arc of my character like was so satisfying, I have to say. So I was playing as a character who he started out as basically like a poor hunter who was like the nephew of a baron. And by a series of him basically just being like totally like just bragging and like kind of surrounding himself with useful people, he managed to like constantly put himself like in like this like very famous and good light. And it ended with him being so popular that he like kept climbing the political ladder. And he ended up, like, I ended up retiring that character, and he went off to become a king. And he just became an NPC in the background. And, like, that was just, like, such a great story. That was totally unplanned. It was just, like, other people would do things, but he was able to, like, tell stories and, like, kind of bullshit his, like, role in those actions to the point where NPCs, like, basically just loved the guy.
Well, my character was only interested in finding her grandfather, so she wasn't going to be running kingdoms. Also, she wasn't even human. Well, only part human.
I think this is why most campaign premises are super simple and straightforward, because otherwise they just get in the way of all the weird random stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
Because it gets bizarre sometimes, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole point of it is to be a storytelling thing, and in fact,
it can be fun.
I think that a lot of interactive media really does boil down to like some sort of consistent thing that you interact with to get a story experience out of it.
Yeah.
With a certain amount of like restraints on like what the story is, like what comes out of it. Like if you're playing like a video game, it's usually very much like this is going to be your experience with like very little deviation. But sometimes it's not like so restrictive. But in D&D is that like very it's so unrestrained. Like the rules are just there to barely like guide you into creating your own reality and
it's essentially
story
an
and stuff
improv
out of
session
it.
for people that don't know anything about improv.
Hey,
Yeah.
we all played make-believe when we were little, did we not?
No, it's true. I mean, a lot of successful like acting improv games do have pretty strict like structure and rules to them. So
Keith didn't play make-believe, he played make-business.
I think we talked
It's
before
like, would you
that
like
I
some
basically
tea?
never
Like,
played
yes,
with toys.
I will trade you $5 for the tea.
I don't think
Thank
you've
you.
ever mentioned that,
Successful
Keith.
transaction.
I feel like that came up on a previous podcast, because we've done
I had too
20
many
plus
toys.
of them now.
Too
Yeah.
many.
Yeah, I never cared about toys. I always played video games or watched stuff or read things, but I never really cared about like playing with toys.
I was never
I did
really
toys.
exposed to video games, so...
Yeah.
I did all of
for a
those
while.
things. I think it's just toys don't really have their potential is sort of like what you guys were talking about with D&D. They're just a visual aid in something that you have to create for yourself. Pretty much.
Yeah, I played with toys a lot, and I, like you said, exactly that. It was like a visual aid. And I can still kind of remember, as I got older, your ability to visualize through toys starts to fade. And then all of a sudden, like, when you're playing with a toy and you're a little kid, it's not just that toy. Like, you're able to strongly visualize, like, this whole world around it. But then as you get older, if you look at a toy, you just see it for what it is, and then it sucks.
Yeah, I will admit, as I've grown older, the toys I've gotten have definitely gotten, like, more,
Well, toys suck now.
But, like, all of my toys,
their
or
product-
the things that I'd, like, want, are artistically and, like, aesthetically pleasing more than, like, any kind of, you know, functionality. Like,
if you look at Transformers from the 90s versus now, there is a stark difference in, like, the quality of the plastics, the modeling, the...
I think it varies. There were some
portability.
really shitty Transformers back in the day, but there were some, like, really
Hey,
nice
the
ones.
Beast
But that's
Wars
mainly
ones
just
were
because there was
awesome.
actually a market for it. The market for Transformers toys has gone from, you know, being a relatively, like, open thing to mostly niche. Yes-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played a lot with, you know, those little sort of rubbery animals that you would find at various stores. Sometimes for models
I had
and
those
stuff.
like for dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Lots of dinosaur toys
we
like
had
that.
dinosaurs, we had wolves, we had leopards, you know, all those. And the interesting thing was there was this huge plant that we used to have in the living room. I forget what species it was, but it just sort of entwines itself out and it has all these leaves on the ends, and it almost looked like a jungle in there. And I would have my animals, you know, jumping from bough to bough and stalking prey and things like that.
Meanwhile,
do you have
I
any
was the
more questions?
asshole who would buy I would buy Lego sets, and then I'd actually build the diorama on the box.
Oh, see, I would build the diorama, and then I would after that destroy it, and then just like incorporate it into my giant Lego box. Do whatever I wanted
Yeah,
with
I
it.
would use it for so many things. Every time I get a Lego set, I'd open it up, I'd make it once, I'd take it apart unless it was really, really cool, and that was the end of it.
Exactly. That's
We
what I
had
did.
more Playmobil than we had Legos.
Then you had a bad childhood.
Well,
Oh,
so we had Mega Bloks too. Unfortunately, it was only for the Dragon series because they had really nicely done dragons. You could put little amulets in their neck piece, and it would glow. It would make their eyes and their mouth glow. So, you know, breathing fire and the like. They could flap their wings. And they had these nose rings that then led to chains that you could use as the reins for riders and such. Those were cool sets. And the whole point of that was they had this little story about going around it where there was, a noble king and his armies facing a barbarian horde led by, a rival king. So they had 2 different colored armor sets, and they were each trying to claim the medallions so that they could take possession of the dragons, because the dragon with the respective color medallion had to bow to the will of the one who possessed the medallion. And there were like puzzles and secret chambers and ancient ruins. Sorry, I'll stop. You're making a face. It was cool.
I know it was cool.
I actually have a toy question, kind of.
Okay.
Anonymous asks, if you were a Transformer, what would your alt form be? I'm sorry, it's not Anonymous, it's the Hooded Teddy.
No, figure.
I mean,
What?
because my favorite series is Beast Wars, it would probably be an animal. And
Can my alt mode be human?
Yeah.
Then I'm just a human that turns into a robot.
The flesh splits and it's just like...
didn't they have that in one of the more
happened in, like,
recent
Naked Dude.
Transformer movies?
That's
That
Either
happens
that
in,
or the
like,
clothing is
Transformers
baked
4,
in
didn't
really
it?
weirdly.
Or 2?
Yeah.
It would definitely be something like a dragon, though. If it could be something mythological. Because, dragons are awesome.
I have no idea what I would turn into.
trying
How about a Calliope?
Ah. Okay. That's interesting. Do you mean the goddess or the...
No, I mean
Or
the
the-
organ
Oh.
that they had at zoos, or like zoos and circuses and stuff.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I see.
I was just thinking, like, what's the most musical, like, vehicle I can think of? So just be like that thing that's like...
Bird would be like one of those one-band band carts.
Those were always my
Yeah.
favorite part of riding the carousels. Except when I was a child, I would call them the merry-go-cells.
The merry-go cells?
Yes, because I was mixing carousel and merry-go-round together. Oh, those are cute.
I was totally
But yeah.
right. It was like Transformers 2 or something was the one where there was a girl named Alice who just splits apart into like a horrible bladed monstrosity.
Yeah. I was thinking.
Oh yeah, I forgot
there
about
was
that. That
there
was
a
weird.
human
I didn't like that part.
Transformer.
Yeah, they didn't bring that one back.
No, I think the problem with that was it was starting to get too close to the Terminator. If you know what I mean, like the Terminator 3 had the lady, right? And she had a similar skill set to the guy from the second Terminator, with the being able to bend.
I don't know if anyone remembers Terminator 3.
I was gonna say, I don't know.
I remember enough of it.
Is she-
That was that the thumbs up one or no?
No,
that was
that was
Terminator
that Terminator 2.
Yeah, you're right.
We've
And that
had
was
3
awesome.
consecutive Terminators now that no one really remembers after watching them.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
because there was the fourth one with, wasn't Christian Bale in
Salvation.
it or someone? Yeah.
Which,
was
as
the
far
one
as I can
that
tell, just took place in the desert.
Salvation
Yeah, that
was
was
starring
awkward.
the guy that makes movies
Yeah.
forgettable.
Wait, isn't
guy
there
from
another
Avatar
one with Arnold
and-
Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, the fifth one
Yeah,
Is
the one that
Schwarzenegger.
has Daenerys in it.
again. Yeah, I actually want to see that just because it
Is
looks campy and dumb,
Is she playing
as
Sarah
opposed to
Connors
like
or
trying to be
something?
serious.
When I talk to people who saw Genesis, they already don't remember it.
Dang.
Well, guess I'm not
Which is
spending
exactly
money
how I
on that
feel
one.
because I saw Terminator Salvation and I don't remember it.
I
at
I
all.
remember enough of Salvation to remember it was bad.
I still can't get behind the
Though
fact
they did
that
a very good job at making a fake young Schwarzenegger. Like it looked, they did that part really well for whatever reason.
So
the
how well do you think
technology.
you can remember any movies that ever starred Sam Worthington?
Who's
is
Sam
that the
Worthington?
what
dude
movie
that-
was he in?
Yeah.
He's
Was he Avatar?
he's Avatar, Terminator Salvation,
Oh,
and
right. Yeah, Terminator
the
Salvation
Titans.
was the one that
actually-
sank his career. Now that I'm thinking about it, because
I-
he was too typecast and nobody wanted to get him after that one.
I
he
haven't
did
seen
Clash
Wrath
of the Titans. He did something about somebody
Oh.
jumping off of a building or something, man on a ledge or something, and like it's just an entire period of films.
After
like he was
Terminator
in all these
Salvation and Avatar, it looks like his next things on his Wikipedia are like voice acting for Call of Duty games.
Yeah. So I saw a discussion piece on like why his career bombed. And the problem is he only picked roles, or he was only cast for roles that did the exact same thing, and he never really had any diversity. So, and all of those roles, like after Avatar, were so unremarkable because it didn't change. It was just kind of the same role over and over and over again.
But look at Bruce Willis. He like had a huge career of pretty much being the same character. But he did it at a
time when people wanted that.
Yeah.
Also, you know what Bruce Willis was at one point? Not anymore, but once upon a time, Bruce Willis was charming.
Yeah,
like I remember the amazing charisma Sam Worthington had.
No,
he was definitely
he's just protagonist, man.
Yeah, he was kind of the flat, gruff, kind of angry
he's just like
white
John
dude.
Everyman.
Oh
mean,
god,
Jack
this is
Reacher
depressing.
has
if
more,
you go to his IMDb, it says
yeah.
known for Avatar, Clash of Titans, Terminator Salvation, Wrath of the Titans. It just gives up and names the even worse sequel of the other bad franchise he's in.
But Clash of the Titans, like the original Clash of the Titans, that had, stop motion animation by Roddenberry.
That's not what we're talking about here.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not it. Also, Bruce Willis's career is shit now, too.
Yeah, well, he's also old,
history,
so it doesn't matter.
I was going to say,
he is.
He's in
so many. He's in like multiple movies a year, oftentimes, and they're movies that no one knows about because they're garbage and never went to theaters. Because he's becoming the same thing as what was the nature hippie action hero guy again?
Nature hippie action hero?
He used to be
talking about Rampart.
The guy that's like, he usually plays a Native American character, and I don't know if that's accurate or not. I don't know if if it makes sense for him to be playing them, but he does.
Well, I only know of a couple of Native American actors.
But like, did anyone watch Fire with Fire?
No.
I mean, you are the cinemaphile amongst our entire group, so...
What?
Well, I just mean, like, that's like, no one's
Keith
heard of it,
watches
but
way
it's a
more-
Bruce Willis movie, is what I mean. Like...
Maybe I watched the exceptionally old movies.
You used to know every Bruce Willis movie up until around the terrible Die Hard sequel.
Which one?
Live Free or Die Hard.
Hey, the second and the third one were okay.
Moment his career stopped being something people paid attention to. That's when he started being in stuff like Cop Out and Red.
But The Fifth Element was great.
Yeah, but that was 20 years ago.
Danny Trejo? Is that what you were talking about earlier?
No, not.
It is going to be 20 years ago.
Trejo was charming, though. Like
see.
He is actually very charming.
Yeah,
still,
like I was watching watching a random YouTube video the other day, and he just showed up in it. And I was like, what?
Guys,
Why?
Talking about actors with similar roles, how about Keanu Reeves?
He screwed himself really hard for a while. I'm actually really glad he ended up in John Wick, even though it like doesn't really diversify him that well. John Wick was good.
Damn good
characters.
movie.
I haven't seen John Wick.
I actually didn't like John Wick that much. I feel like they didn't make him into enough of a capable of individual comparatively, but I thought it was a good way for Keanu Reeves to get himself back into a series that wasn't kind of garbage, because like he's kind of typecast because he's half Japanese, which is a rare thing in Hollywood. And he's actually like also probably one of the nicer actors that I've ever heard about. Like the dude
he's
gave
really cool.
up like most of his money from one of the Matrix movies.
CGI.
To give it to the CGI team, which was like not a small amount of money. And I was like, damn, like respect earned, even if I don't like his movies. And I was like, let's go see John Wick, and it was
like,
good.
Sort of the cold protagonist that's very quiet and taciturn in many of his films.
Yeah.
I saw him in, what was it, a Sandra Bullock film? It was, The House by the Water, or... I forget. That was some weird time-traveling stuff.
He's out doing, like, Tai Chi movies now, basically.
Tai Chi movies? I took Tai Chi in college.
He even did a movie called Man of Tai Chi, where he was leading role in it.
I'm reading about that right now.
And he directed it.
Oh.
He also was apparently going to play Spike in a Cowboy Bebop movie that never materialized.
Oh, right. I heard about that. I actually was excited about that because I think he'd make
really
a decent
look
Spike. And
I think it's probably in development hell right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
apparently
surprised.
Budgeting issues. Yeah,
it's also one of those where I would actually really like to see some anime movies, like
Well, what about
with
Ghost
high
in the
enough.
Shell?
No,
'Cause,
that's
I
No.
mean,
That's-
I'm worried about that one.
That's Dragon Ball.
Someone named the actor I was trying to think of before. It's Steven Seagal.
Oh,
see.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Bruce Willis has
that
become
guy.
Steven
He does play
Seagal
Native
now.
American guys. Why?
Yeah, he doesn't even look like it. Oh, dude, read his I believe it's IMDb.
His movies are a lot of like, I'm going around the forest and I'm a force of nature and I'm
Boy,
going to defend
what
the
characters has he played?
greenness and stuff.
Okay, Steven Seagal is like still in a shit ton of
Seagal.
movies. That's what I call him. I know it's Seagal, but it makes me giggle when I call him Steven Seagal.
So what are the
like,
movies he's been in?
He's okay. So
I've heard
he's
the
kind
name.
of he kind of did the Chuck Norris thing where he's like random white dude that's really good at martial arts for whatever reason in every movie he's in.
okay.
Yeah.
And like
Well, what movies has he been in?
Steven Seagal, I don't know. He was in, like... it wasn't, like, anything, like, major. He was just kind of in a lot of, like, martial artsy movies.
Why are you getting pictures
A lot
of
of directed
Kate?
TV
there's several.
type of
Okay, here we
things,
go.
right?
Oh, him.
Steven Seagal.
I see.
I love his IMDb. Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. Did you read that? Have you read that yet? I'm gonna read this out
I'll
loud.
read it.
Steven Seagal is a striking and somewhat boyishly handsome, often with a ponytail, action star who burst onto the martial arts film scene in 1988 in the fast-paced Warner Bros. Film Above the Law. And
Oh, he
then
was
it just
born in
goes on for more
Michigan?
stuff.
Oh, that explains it.
The boyishly handsome, often with a ponytail thing was just like, what? So he
if
was
you
in-
look at
No.
pictures of him, he doesn't look boyish
He's
at all.
in a lot of movies every year.
Yeah, so
What? Oh no, as producer, executive
Always
producer.
yeah, he is working. He's put out at least one movie a year. He's
Have you heard of Steven Seagal Lawman, though?
no.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I'm going to sidebar into this to tell you about one of the funniest, worst reality TV shows out there.
Oh,
It's called
okay.
Steven Seagal Lawman. So for whatever reason, Louisiana made Steven Seagal like an honorary cop. And
Okay.
like this was like a long time ago.
Is it just
And then-
you've done so many action movies where you portray a
Yeah.
cop? We're gonna make you a cop.
Right. So he
Okay.
becomes an honorary police officer, and then in like 2010 or something like that, he decides to make a reality TV show where he goes around as a police officer and does like citizens arrests, and it's called Steven Seagal Lawman, and it's just like every episode is just like somebody like doing some really minor crime, and then Steven Seagal comes up and like puts them under arrest basically. And they're just like, "Are you Steven Seagal?" And he always, I forget what he said. He had like some really cheesy reaction to this, and he was like, "No, I'm just a cop," or something like that. But in this like dumb Steven Seagal voice, it's like, "No, I'm just a cop."
Wow.
Anyway,
man.
I
Was
watched
he
a couple
properly
episodes of this.
trained? Was there anyone that ever put up a fight? Like,
No, I don't think so. He did this. Okay, here it is. He was a reserve deputy sheriff in Louisiana and then also in Arizona. Awesome.
Right. Yeah, his movie career took off.
Did it though?
No.
And when I say took off, I mean like he
Like
managed
the
to get
list of movies
enough
he's
that
known for is things I've never heard of.
yeah, like he managed to get himself ingratiated into the film community and like some subsection of it for a while. And then he just never really like he just kind of has stayed there forever, and it's just his
Steven
niche.
Seagal
Well, I mean,
was the actor
have you
that
ever
taught
seen
me
his-
not to just click on things on Netflix on a whim.
Have you ever seen his like acting chops? He's just like
bad.
Steven
none of my
Seagal.
favorite
stands
actors
there.
are dead now, which is sad.
Punch you.
So one day on
punch you.
Netflix, I
Started in
randomly
50s
clicked on a Steven
films.
Seagal movie called Maximum Conviction, which is a Steven Seagal Steve Austin movie. And
Oh,
what's funny is that they're already both
Wait,
not
like
actors, which
Stone
is funny.
Cold?
But
yes, it's Stone Cold Steve
So
Austin.
they're
Wow.
both not actors because it's a non-actor with a wrestler, and But what was amazing...
Well, I mean, that's acting. Wrestling's fake, Keith.
Yeah. But it was such a low budget movie that it wouldn't put the title characters together. Like, they were both breaking into they were both going into basically a prison that was being taken over and like taking out the bad guys and everything. But they entered from two different parts of the prison and are completely separate from each other for like the entire film and are basically never on screen with each other besides one part where they're briefed about what they need to do. And
do they communicate via cell phone or something, or what's going on?
Well, like, it was just cutting back and forth between the two of them having their stories go in parallel because they couldn't. It's like they clearly save money on shooting, just shot all the scenes with the two actors completely separately from each other to the point where there's scenes where the two of them are talking to each other and it's cutting from one to the other but never showing them in frame together, to the point where like they might have actually been just talking at nothing and then stitched them together into one scene.
They didn't even get a double to like have the back of the head at least.
Yeah, so like it was like two C-list actors, but also they couldn't bother to make it even use them well.
What location did the movie take place in?
It was just some prison. That's probably like the prison that's in every movie. That's just a Hollywood set.
Yeah.
It's probably the same prison they used in Walking Dead or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that prison.
It's like, we gotta save Cincinnati.
It's really cool seeing stuff like
Branson, Missouri is under attack.
I'm really amused by how you can look up video compilations of like specific Hollywood sets to see how often they're used in different movies. Like the the Halle Berry horror movie she had at some point in a prison. Like you can look up that location and see it in like 12 movies, and it's really strange cutting between all these different.
I feel really bad for Halle Berry. She never should have even touched Catwoman.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
That really set her back up. Big time.
He killed her career. She hasn't been in any good movies since.
I think she's so briefly...
I thought she was in like a Bond movie.
Yeah, wasn't
or something.
She was in Bond before that.
Oh, yeah, because that was with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, and she did a decent job in that one. And then she actually had like a number of gigs and was doing quite well.
And the X-Men and
but like
stuff like that.
At this point, I think she was.
Now she was who stars in the movie 43.
Yeah, but like. She was pretty hot on Hollywood for like a while. And
she was in Cloud Atlas too. Wow, she knows how to pick them. Cloud Atlas is the movie that should have been good, but
it looks like such a good movie when you're watching it. And then
you watch a little bit of it and you're like, oh, I'd rather do some dishes.
Cloud Atlas is one of those. It's a Wachowski special where it's a movie that it's terrible, but as you're watching it, it's constantly almost convincing you it's good. Because it's like everything about it should be good. So, the actors are good. Oftentimes, even like the dialogue or the premise could be good, but it's so stupid.
Yeah, the premise is usually like interesting-ish enough. I don't know.
Yeah, like people.
I will give the Wachowskis credit though. I like Sense8 a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing if like
you mean Cloud Atlas
series is going to continue, right?
Sense8 is Cloud Atlas's like reboot, basically.
It
like,
is.
They're like, we're going to try parallel
like
stories
Sense8
again now.
Yeah, I like Sense8. I think
Sense8 is almost Crash.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's not a perfect show, but I'm just saying, like, I enjoyed it. I want to see more of it come out eventually.
Imagine there's someone like maybe Wander who doesn't know what Crash or Sense8 is, or the Wachowskis are, and it's just like a series.
Well, I know who the
Wachowskis
are.
Crash, I did not enjoy.
After The Matrix, I kind of washed my hands of the Wachowskis. I was like, Cloud Atlas seems nice. Oh, never mind.
They made something that has a cult following.
Before The Matrix, even, I think.
Speed Racer.
But they made Speed Racer.
Yeah,
they made Speed Racer, which is the weirdest side thing, and people that's like, it's divisive, but some people are super into that one.
I have never seen that. I actually want to, because if I remember, it wasn't that like Ego Raptor's favorite movie for a while.
It, but yeah. That's a weird reason to want to see a movie.
What?
Ego
Raptor
liked it.
Well, no, he like would not shut up about it for like several series of his.
Speed Racer, the animated television series with 4 different pilots.
No. You're thinking of Thunderbirds.
No. There was a Speed Racer animated television series.
Okay, so there's Speed Racer, but it was all about one guy whose name might have even been Speed Racer or something stupid like that. But he had like an older brother who was also another racer. And Racer X.
Yeah.
It was like... It was pretty old, but like there weren't 4 pilots.
Well, okay, so they weren't pilot. They had their own cars. Let's just put it that way. I remember a version where, it was the guy, his older brother, another guy that was like a sidekick, and then there was a girl. And
he has his entire family, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Like, his dad and his sister, I believe, are like the support crew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw the animated series.
I watched enough of it to be like, this is kind of dumb. They're like in a car, and there's a train circling around them somehow, covered in guns shooting at them, but the car was bulletproof, and I was just like, this is amazingly stupid. And I was like 7.
Speed Racer was the game where even as a child, I was like, why don't they just edit?
Why did you call it a game?
I did again,
not everything is video
games. I don't think about the word I used at all. Speed Racer was the show where...
Just like, if it's media that I consume, it must be a video game.
It becomes just a neutral noun that I just place in the sentence where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Speed Racer was the show where even as a kid I was already thinking, why don't they just edit the show differently so the dialogue makes sense? Because, like, instead of editing the show differently, they would just dub over the number of times the mouth flap opens and closes.
Yeah.
But it was always a static shot.
It was verbal diarrhea.
It was always a total static shot, and they could have easily edited it without making it look different at all, because it was just a perfectly static screen with just one person's mouth going blah 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 over and over again at a weirdly even pace, which made all their dialogue.
I must go down the mountain because the mountain is very fast, and that's the way I get to the finish line. Haha.
Yeah, they'd end sentences with noises because they couldn't find more words to fit in to make the right syllable count.
Most sentences would just end with people going like or like because they needed one more syllable.
Watch out, Speed Racer!
It's like, thanks, Speed Racer. I'm Speed Racer. You're welcome, Speed Racer. Haha. It's great. I really recommend watching it.
I might have to look up a montage of bad Speed Racer dubs.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that really quickly?
No,
we can't do that right now.
Let's do that in the middle of the thing.
Any more questions? We've gone on a long.
That's a personal time thing.
Yeah, Bird. Let's do that between, and we can giggle about it on our own. So I'd like to transition. We were talking about Cloud Atlas being like the thing that was almost good. This is a bit of a stretch considering almost good versus not, but
Masquerada.
No, well, we could talk about Masquerada if you wanted to. Now that it's not spoilers, I just wanted to comment that like No Man's Sky's patch came out.
Oh,
and I've been playing it and haven't done anything new yet
on our podcast.
Well, as I recall, you had gotten yourself in this pickle the last time where you just kept selling your stuff off.
No. Right now, you
stuff.
can't judge the game based on what I'm doing, because right now I'm exploiting the economy to make stupid amounts of money.
So that you can buy better
kind
ships.
of off camera during the podcast, so I can buy ships and not have to do this when I'm actually streaming. It's not off camera, and I'm gonna I'm effectively gonna do a time lapse of what I'm doing, but instead of like
hours later,
it's like instead of grinding in an RPG, you do the like skip ahead or whatever. But like they have base building now, and you can like hire people and shit. And I've actually been like looking at it. The base building looks a hell of a lot nicer than most sandbox RPGs. Not sandbox RPGs, like sandbox games.
Have you ever seen
very smooth and fast
yet?
And low demand. You mean another player?
Yeah, or I mean, I'm sorry. Have you ever seen like any humanoid creature walk?
No, I haven't.
No.
They still, even the people you hire?
No, he just teleported, if I remember right.
Oh, they still do that?
I think so. I wasn't paying full attention because I got distracted by economy.
Oh, man.
Right. Yeah, it was one of the lizard things,
Sky.
and it was on a stool, and I think it just like winked out of existence. I'd have to check my.
And you wasted more money and
footage.
bought the PC version.
It's because the PC version
Why?
doesn't crash randomly, and also this game is so much easier to maneuver on the PC. Like being able to click on shit is nice. Also mods, because there's mods.
And
also,
you can go into the text to change the FOV.
Yes. Well, actually, you can change to the FOV now, just like baseline.
You could in game, but the meter would lie to you about what FOV it was giving you, and you had to manually enter a higher FOV into the text than the interface would give you to get you a vaguely not nauseating one.
The FOV goes way higher on the PC now, and I don't have nausea, so they at least got that part kind of right.
Yeah, at launch it was like playing a game through a telescope.
Yes. They also fixed the crippling performance issues that plagued the PC version, which is why I didn't end up buying that initially. Because that was awful.
So are there any new questions?
They just talked me out of playing the game so hard because their foundation update itself's description was just like, yeah, this lays the foundation for like future base building. I'm like, so it's like not even a thing yet. It's like what the description itself.
It's there. You can do stuff.
Yeah,
like their hyperbola is kind of a mistake. They really need to just be upfront about like this is what it is exactly.
I think it's because they're now terrified of promising anything.
Yes,
I was going to say
the entire life.
I think they're afraid of opening their mouths.
Broken promises.
I thought it sounded too ambitious.
I'm just glad that they're actually still updating this game, which is kind of the like Stockholm syndrome response. But it's just like, give me like 4 or 5 more of these patches, and this might actually be a decent game.
Maybe the lawsuits will stop.
Actions speak louder than words, though. So I mean, it's better that they're like putting out patches rather than
honestly,
saying like, "Yeah, we're gonna fix this game," and then they never do.
I guess part of the reason why I'm being forgiving is because like Necropolis kind of did the same thing, where like they updated the game and fixed nothing.
Yeah.
They updated it to make a slightly larger character model to play as and some enemies that are technically visually different, but just feel like you're fighting the same thing over and over again still.
This, I mean, they still haven't fixed a lot of the glaring issues, but it is actually like a step in the right direction. Like there's kind of shit to do. You can teleport between planets and stations now. You get like really big ships that you can fly around.
I just think it's hilarious. All these guys.
So now
look
you can
like
set up a
Wanderbots.
base on one planet and keep teleporting back to it.
Yeah, so you can have like a permanent home planet, which also
that's what I thought was going to be there at launch, because when I saw the pre-launch stuff, I saw a guy physically walk through a portal that was on a planet to go to another planet, and I'm like, and then at launch there was no evidence that existed at all.
Well, it's in the game now. I don't know how substantive it is. Like, I don't know if you can teleport between multiple bases, because I barely had the chance to play, because we spent 4 hours doing scrap mechanic last night.
It'd be nice, because then you could set up a base on a planet you really like, and keep that as your permanent home, but then keep pushing forward and forward through the universe, and then keep retreating back to there to get better resources if you can't find better planets.
As far as I know, that's exactly what it is. I think you can also have multiple bases, but I haven't looked at that yet. But yeah, there's like a teleport menu and stuff like that, so I'll probably report back with more information next time. But
the tough thing, though, of course, is the next question is there anything fun to do yet?
Apart from like gathering resources and grinding up to get one of the big ships and like grinding out a base, no.
Clearly, the only fun part of this game is to find all the animals and proceed to record them.
The like
and
base, the base like reason to play this game is to grind to get the fancy shit. Which I mean, I'm kind of desensitized because of MMOs, but
I think a lot of people play this game specifically just to get mad at Sean Murray. Hey, for a lot of people, that ended up being very fun for them.
Yeah, that subreddit has been active for 5 months of nothing, and I am floored by that.
Well, I mean, if you look at the subreddit right now, I just flipped onto it randomly. Like, there's no activity. Now, if there's actually a patch to talk about, it's dead.
Well, that's because people are playing it now.
They are playing it now.
Yeah.
The subreddit was so bad. I remember like hearing about game journalism, like outlets like writing about like just the crazy amount of like, God, it exploded.
Yeah, I still feel kind of bad because they really should have just waited like 2 years to release this game.
Yeah,
and then it probably actually would have been really good.
They're probably contractually obligated by Sony to finish the game.
Yes.
Exactly. Sony just oversold it and then left them and told them the bag when...
I think it's a combination of that and then not trying to be close-lipped because, you know, they were trying to be kind of like, there are mysteries here that, like, we don't want to tell people about.
That EverQuest Next never got go ahead.
That it's gone forever.
It really is. Oh, dude, I played Smedley's new game. It's terrible.
Who?
Really? Which one? What's it called?
John Smedley is the guy that he was the kind of weird blonde guy that was always like talking about stuff.
Most of the EverQuest videos.
Yeah, he was kind of the hype guy / like one of the main designers. So he made a new. He's behind the new game Hero Song on Steam. It's like $20 or something like that. But it's supposed to be this like truly procedurally generated like living, breathing world. And like initially, it actually really looked like they crossed Dwarf Fortress with a decent RPG. And then I get into the game and there's no map and there's no direction where to go. I'm just in this like clearing with a bunch of people who start like milling about randomly. And I'm like, okay, now what?
Clearly procedurally generated.
It was procedurally generated to the point where like there were no landmarks or anything to
Towns,
do.
anything.
So I pull up the map, which is just this blank piece of paper with like 5 dungeons marked on it, but like I don't even know which direction I'm going in, so I just start like walking in a direction. I find orcs that kill me, and then I like go into this like weird shadow world area, and that was really confusing. And then I like somehow randomly respawned back at the town I was in, and I was just like, so it was like, did I do something like bad? Was that shadow world like confusing? But effectively it was this like really neat idea, and just there's nothing there to back it up. And then it crashed and deleted my character, which I just spent the last hour on. So I was just like,
you see,
oh, fuck this.
This is the most video game story I've ever heard.
So I could see a procedurally generated sci-fi space exploration because, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of unknown territories you can explore and planets that have never been seen before. And I mean, I think that's one of the few things No Man's Sky is doing all right. I mean, I like it when you find the ruins and get more dialogue.
The problem is they didn't have enough set pieces to justify the size. It's like having a giant empty room and having like 3 basketballs in it and being like, look at all this stuff you can do.
Right,
it's like,
but it's
yes,
so
I can,
big.
It's like technically I can play infinite games with these basketballs, but after a certain point, I get really sick of the smell of basketball. It's like when
No Man's Sky says you can explore a single planet for 20 hours or something, and it's like, but why would anyone?
Why?
Yeah, in reality, it's no better.
Yeah.
It's no better or worse than Spores exploration.
They said you can procedurally generate a quintillion planets, but you can't procedurally generate a quintillion things to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I was getting at with Wander said what? You had a procedurally generated RPG? How could you have a procedurally generated RPG? Where are the characters? Where are the locations?
You can kind of you can do it.
Landscape? There has to be
You
landmarks.
can definitely give it like a lot of set pieces to work off of, and it's not exactly procedurally generation. At that point, it's just like stitching together a bunch of different segments. Which, I mean, really is what No Man's Sky does, because it stitches together like a bunch of weird monsters and ships together and planets. I mean, I think their biggest crime was they just didn't have enough set pieces to justify. Like, I keep wanting to find like a waterfall, but water would be hard, so they don't have water. So like,
yeah, waterfalls.
Like, I think they wanted to make 3 different games, just like Spore, and they didn't. And now they're pushing it closer to like survival sandbox stuff. They did add a survival mode, which I was interested in, and I've definitely had like a bunch of people being like, why aren't you playing survival mode? You literally just get half as many resources and monsters hit you twice as hard, and I'm just like, this doesn't sound fun. This just sounds like more work on a game where it's only about work. There's a creative mode though, which is actually nice.
If they actually allowed you to customize your ships rather than having to buy off of other ones, wouldn't it be better?
Probably. Hopefully they add that later. Anyway, let's move off of No Man's Sky, because this is a topic that
let's move away from No Man's Sky
True.
like the rest of the planet.
Yeah, I was asking
as I keep playing No Man's Sky.
Interesting questions from the Tumblr, since we only seem to cover 2 or 3 of them before we go
let's
on tangents.
let's rapid fire a couple if we can.
Okay.
Do like a bunch of like simple tiny ones.
Or we just come up with short answers, even if it's a more complicated one.
Would you ever consider playing COD Zombies together as a group, says Mona Lisa 2247.
If it was actually cheap, sure.
Oh, wait, what's the game called?
I feel like that's
Call of Duty Zombies.
Call of Duty Zombies.
I feel like that's got to be like 10th place on the list of priorities, though, for zombie co-op games.
Oh, yeah, there's a billion other ones that are more fun. But
I
would play
it. How come we've never done that?
Yeah. I feel like Call of Duty Zombies is something that the only reason anyone ever cared about it was because it was part of Call of Duty, and everyone played Call of Duty, so exposure was automatic.
I saw the Zombies version of Advanced Warfare, and it actually looked quite fun, because they had like some RPG mechanics, and it looked deep enough to be interesting, not to mention Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare actually looked like halfway decent games if they weren't mainly multiplayer focused. But ultimately, Activision does not allow Call of Duty to sell for lower than like $50 90% of the time.
I would love to play.
That's how you know they were desperate this year, is during the Steam sale it was $40.
Wow.
Yeah, for the first time ever, the Steam sale during the year the Call of Duty came out, it was already $40.
Wow.
Wow.
people have not responded positively this year.
So, one thing I've always wondered, I mean, there are obviously a lot of co-op games that I'd like to partake in with you guys at some point, but there are always the reason why I've looked into MMOs a lot is because there's typically a party max of like 5 or some, depending on what game you're playing. But it seems like most games have adhered to the 2 to 4.
Well, you can generally reliably get that many people. Anything more than that, and it starts to become a problem.
Oh, I know, but why not give the option?
Because it's hard to balance the game around that. Like Call of Duty Zombies. I mean, imagine Left 4 Dead with 8 people, which is actually possible with a mod.
But the levels won't support that.
Yeah, the levels don't support it, so you don't have enough guns,
wasn't there a level where the two
or
campaigns of characters intersected, and you could actually play at 8-player?
In Guild Wars 1, yes.
No, in Left 4 Dead.
Oh,
I think there was a DLC for the second game that brought in the characters from the first game into the same level as the characters from the second game.
I don't remember seeing other players doing that, though.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I know
the characters were there. I don't know if they were human controllable or not.
They were at the top of a big bridge, and they're like, if you can turn this thing on, we'll lower it for you. And so you have to run around getting gas canisters to power the thing like usual. Yeah. Except for, I believe that's where, like, canonically, Bill is supposed to die, which is supposed to be this, like, big thing. But I was like, I've never really cared about these characters. Why?
Spoilers.
Bill died canonically because the voice actor died.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, we can't do anything new with him anymore.
Really.
So they, so you encounter the party from the first game, but only 3 of them. And if you go into like a random building, you can find Bill's corpse.
Ooh.
But the Sacrifice and Coldstream DLCs, No Mercy was ported into Left 4 Dead 2. Okay, so I guess this campaign really did happen in Left 4 Dead 2. I don't know if you could play if it was like a multiple.
It's not multiple parties.
Left 4 Dead 2
played
has a
it
lot
with Spider.
Couple bonus content.
I played that with Spider and Pocket Pack. It was
those are $4 right now.
6 would be an okay number for games.
Yeah, they're good.
6 would be okay, but
again,
the thing is, you have to design the game to work with 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, 4 player, 5 player, 6 player.
Yeah, you either have to have it scale up
hard.
or
yeah.
A lot of DLC
2
also
to 4
just
you can. It's pretty easy to bridge that, but more than that becomes very difficult to start covering that big of a spread.
There's also just the roots of multiplayer, where like the original reason why games were 4-player were just because it's just a really
controllers.
It's a really easy decision to make to say, oh, this screen is a square. I will divide it into 4 smaller squares of the same dimensions.
Right.
Now it's a 4-player game, and then we just stuck with that number forever. And that's just become part of our language of how we design games, is to base them around that number of players or 1.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
What game, after it was patched and or updated a lot, did you go back to enjoy the most?
Oh, that's a really good question. Basically, like what my favorite DLC or patch was.
We haven't gone back to it in a while, but Armello has been really good about like...
Armello was good, yeah.
Yeah, Armello was great. Space Food Truck definitely like smoothed out its game experience, even if it's still hell.
I'm gonna flip through my Steam library because I have good answers for this one. I just can't remember any off the top of my
issue is
head.
I don't replay games that much over long periods of time. So, like, the only game I can think of that changed I can think of 2 games that changed a ton over time, but I like them less for the changes.
Which
like,
are?
I think that Darkest Dungeon right now is worse than it was at launch, and I've voiced my opinion of World of Warcraft a lot over our series.
Yeah.
I replayed a lot of what was it? Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Every new DLC, I pretty much picked that up and played, and I think that the DLCs that they added to that game, I mean, aside from Horse Armor, but
are we counting DLC as updates then?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, then I have a really easy answer. Rock Band 3.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
It's a real good game when you have 1,000 songs.
Unfortunately for me, most of the games I've ever played...
Yeah, Binding of Isaac, I would definitely say, is probably the number 1 example. Because Do we even count Rebirth as like the remake as a update? Because I probably would.
Yeah, I would count that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
What were we gonna say, Shell?
Oh, I was just going to say that, unfortunately, most of the games I've ever played have never had updates, per se. They are either already in their finished state, because they were, older PC games, console games, and the like, or they were MMOs. So the only games that I've ever played that actually had updates were MMOs. And I'd have to say that, probably what Keith was saying, World of Warcraft, the new expansion brought in a lot of features that they should have had a long time ago. And it's nice to see that there.
I was saying the opposite, which is that the more times updates happen to WoW, the worse the game got over time.
Oh, really? Okay, never mind.
I've been having a good time when we play Legion. Legion is enjoyable.
And
it's not the experience it used to be, but from like a person that doesn't want to commit to...
Legion
from a
definitely
person
kind of feels like a return to form, but our last 100 or so episodes of playing the game were unfortunate because they have this massive quantity of content that they kind of expect you to play through, but they've neutered it to be completely unfun and uninteresting.
They
and
didn't.
Mind-numbingly
They didn't
simple.
balance it. I wish they had never actually gone back and rebalanced the base levels. So if they kept, every expansion pack the same, it's just the balance changes drastically between one to the next. That actually would probably have been the most interesting, because I remember getting my shit kicked in like Westfall. Constantly
in everywhere.
Sucked. Yeah.
If you were fighting things that were your level, you actually had to pay attention and strategize to do things.
Actually, that'd actually be kind of a fun way of progressing it too, because you get your shit kicked in Westfall, but then by the end of it in Legion, your character is actually this super strong, well-geared badass that can fight through things. That actually would be
of right now,
really
World of Warcraft is an experience where you just enter matchmaking over and over again to keep getting auto-sorted into dungeons that you more or less button match your way through, because running around and questing is boring.
Awful.
Because they have all of Azeroth, they have all of the Eastern Kingdoms, all of Kalimdor, these massive, nostalgic, huge areas that you can explore forever. Yeah, if you do 3 quests in a zone, you basically already out-level the zone, but there's still entire quest chains clearly intending you to play through their quest chains, and there's tons and tons of content that no one has any reason to ever experience.
A lot of those, I'm sure it's just years and years of content building up.
Yeah.
It used to be maybe the first time that zone was made, there were 4 quests in there.
See,
and you were expected to be done in 4
rather
quests.
than actually...
at launch, each place was packed with quests. But
the
fact that what happened is they kept scaling up leveling faster and faster.
So people can get to the end game without spending a week to do it.
People want to raid. That's it. So they
it's kind of one of those where it would suck if you pick up World of Warcraft and all of your friends are at the end game being like, "Oh man," talking about the dungeon of the raid that they just did with everybody else, and it's going to take you literally a week worth of gameplay. I think that's how long it took to get to 70 back when I was playing.
This is really why I'd prefer them to let you just make it easier to skip then, as opposed to making it what it is now, where they, instead of making it more skippable for people that don't want to do it, they made it so that everyone gets the same version of the experience, which is a version that's objectively not well designed.
Yeah, I would actually say I would like it better if they did the Elder Scrolls Online method, which is everywhere is accessible. Everywhere is technically the same level. Some of the endgame stuff is going to be too hard if you're not geared up, but technically if you want to, you can try it. Good luck. I think I'd enjoy that more if it's just you want to go back to Westfall and do all the quests there and actually have a benefit for doing so, go for it. It's going to be hard, just like everywhere else.
Guild Wars 2
kind of, yeah. Guild Wars 2 did it, except for you couldn't go up in levels, you could just go back down, which would also be a good way of doing it, but you could also still just face roll your way through earlier content for the most part.
I was just liking how Legion's questing chains had a more cinematic feel to them, and
that there's actually a storyline. Yeah,
a decade later, suddenly the game has relatively frequent cutscenes with voice acting and animations and everything. It's almost bizarre when you encounter it for the first time. Because there's nothing about you prepped for that. It's a full decade of playing a game where people statically walk around an open world while text bubbles pop up over their heads silently.
If we want to count, just going back to the question that prompted all this, should we count things like Minecraft and Terraria?
Terraria, definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually really want to play the new
games,
update.
It was like a new update was basically coming out like every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Back when those were popular. So I don't know if you can really say like you went back to them. It was just like you were just on this treadmill of like, yes, new shit. Yes, new shit. Which was really fun, actually. But
same vein as Terraria, going back to
Starbound.
Going back to Starbound after, 2 years of development? 3 years of development? That was an incredibly positive experience. They really made that game good. Like, it's actually got a really good basis for a sandbox gameplay. I think they just needed to go deeper. Like, I spent literal hours just designing a crazy, like, a crazy farm just so I could make, like, shit tons of money. And it was really enjoyable. And this is like coming off of Stardew Valley, where I was just like, I've kind of hit the maximum on this game. Let's go play Starbound. And Starbound's like, you can do crazy farming. And I'm like, yes. It felt good. I liked it. They also turned that game around in like a good way that kind of offset all of those horrible reviews in the very beginning. Next question
for a while. Anonymous asks, what would be your perfect game?
What would be your perfect game? The one I'm working on right now.
Confidence.
I mean, if you could somehow, like, game-wise mush No Man's Sky and Destiny together...
What?
That'd probably get kind of close.
So you want an open-world Destiny?
Well, like, if you're, you know, like, imagine if it was kind of like Destiny, where you have, like, a lot of nodes that you can, like, go into and do, like, some very specific quests, but you can also just, like, go out and explore the world, and there's just a ton of, like, shit to do. Because the problem I had with Destiny was there were, like, 5 locations that you could grind in, and they had, like, random events that would happen, which were kind of fun, but they got really repetitive, and I had, like, an app open that would even be like, here's where the next one's happening, so eventually I'm just like, I've just got this down to a really boring process, and it wasn't very enjoyable. Whereas, like, if you could kind of, like, take that content approach, but make it, like, extremely expansive, so, yeah, I can just go out and, like, crack open a new planet that nobody's been to before. There's, like, a ton of aliens crawling all over the place, maybe even, like, a small dungeon to raid on my own with friends, and I finish that off, pop in my ship and fly off to the next one. Maybe do some, like, trading or work on a base while I go on it. Like, that'd be really nice, and that would be way too much money for anybody ever to want to put into development, so it's never going to happen. At least not for the next, like, while.
I think that,
I mean, it only sounds
funny.
a few steps away from being a Ubisoft game.
If you ask, like, really young developers that question, like, the answer is always, like, mixed genre things, but those never work out in practice.
Oh, I know that I really would want something that incorporates, okay, so I really like BioWare's narrative take on things, but I would like me personally, I would like something that's more colorful and slightly more lighthearted. Not that it would have to deviate from being, serious and dire, and, there's very, mature subject matter in this tale. No, I just something that invokes a sense of awe and exploration and stuff. I would like there to be puzzles, because, that's my huge thing with Myst.
You just want Myst.
Okay, I want a Myst where you actually interact with people the way that you did with BioWare, and that, maybe you can have, like, MMO or co-op where you have, like, roleplay characters of various races or things that you can be, and then, like, pet or, like, summons, like Pokemon, except more customizable and cool and fantasy alien looking, so that you just have, like, cool animal companions.
2 thoughts.
Yeah.
One, I'm still waiting on my RTS FPS combo that people have been promising.
I know. Well, there was one. Savage Resurrection.
Yeah, Savage sucked.
the most recent one did kind of okay. It's just the player base is dead right from the get-go because nobody wanted to get into it. And no, like, substantive single player was enough to convince people to pick it up just on their own. That is one thing that indie developers do not do well. They're like combo
RTS FPS.
Well, yeah,
I don't think
obviously.
it's doable.
it's totally doable. It's just nobody with the budget for it is going to do it. So it's not going to happen for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Warshift actually kind of gets there, but it's also a one-man band type project. So like good luck actually getting that fully developed. Cuz
the other thought I had actually responding to what Shell was saying is just kind of thinking about it. How come most of like the really memorable, famous puzzle games take place in completely desolate worlds?
I think
Portal, nobody else was there. Myst, nobody else was there. Abduction, nobody else was there.
I think it's because it takes away from the mystery. If you had someone there that could explain things for you or give you directions, then you wouldn't discover it for yourself.
Puzzle Agent was pretty damn good, and that wasn't exactly desolate. I mean, it was Minnesota, but
That's
like,
desolate.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously though, Puzzle Agent is actually probably one of my favorite puzzle games ever. That and like
I don't know what
Professor
Puzzle
Layton,
Agent
they're
is.
good.
I think it comes down to that if a character was explaining stuff to you, they'd be giving you information that you wanted to get yourself. But if they're not doing anything, then they seem like idiots because the puzzles aren't.
Well,
that
they don't
hard,
need to
so
be
why are they
part of
just
the
sitting
puzzle.
there?
They can just be like around.
I think there's a
Like-
certain romance
That's
to
why I
it.
like
You know what a
Animals.
puzzle game is with a bunch of characters in it? An adventure game.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say that's at that point you're just playing like a King's Quest or like
Or a Shard Light or something.
right. Yeah, that's a good point, huh?
I
Yeah,
will
that's just
Like a
what adventure
mystery,
games are.
a mystery game. Interesting.
I would like to point out there is kind of a certain romance to like figuring out what happened, like
In a place.
before a story. Like practically every game that starts post-apocalyptically, you have to kind of piece together how it happened. Very rarely is there just like this is why it happened, and now go deal
Or
with
even
it.
what the society was before.
Yeah.
Right. I suppose I would have to say that in the old Nancy Drew games, they did have static characters that you could talk and interact with. And,
Those are adventure games, though.
right, the line of questioning led you to new possibilities, or maybe they'd give you something that
that's
you could
just
use.
adventure game. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the point. The problem with puzzle games with people is they just become adventure games because too quickly is it easy
There's like
to
a world.
it's too easy to start interacting with too many characters, and that's where it becomes a problem.
And pretty much immediately, the interacting with the characters becomes part of the puzzle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like
Not-
Primordia
Otherwise
is a
you're
pretty
missing
good
an
puzzle game,
opportunity.
but it's totally an
Yeah.
adventure game.
Not unless most of the like puzzle aspect of the game took place in dungeons or places remote from society.
Yeah.
Because you could still have that in ancient ruins.
Yep. Let's see.
Well, I guess that answers that question.
Yep.
Good discussion.
Next one.
I never really answered it because I kind of don't have an answer.
Oh. Yours is just Dark Souls.
It would have to be some game that is
Yeah.
interesting and innovative and doesn't waste my time with recycled concepts or repetitive level design or anything. But I just want to be surprised. So it's got to have like a cool thematic arc, but not
You got
necessarily
hit
a
by a
narrative
ship.
arc.
Tried.
And
I think I fell before it
basically
hit me.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, so Dark Souls crossed with like a good Telltale game.
No, because it doesn't have to have a story; it just has to have a thematic arc.
No, I'm just thinking of games that you've really enjoyed in the past.
I don't
Yeah.
like Telltale games, though. I complain about them.
You used to be pretty down with some of them.
I liked
Wolf Among Us.
Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us, and that was where it started my interest, and then immediately stopped because they stopped making that kind of game also.
Yeah.
And they've given up entirely and have made, like, by the time you get to Michonne, it's just a movie.
What was the
You're
Batman
just watching
one?
a movie that they made for cheap by making it a game.
I've heard they've started to like redeem the Batman one. Like episode 3 wasn't terrible.
I don't have a ton of faith because they started with a 5-episode Minecraft series that expanded into an 8-episode Minecraft series, but each episode it was like 50 minutes long, and it's like everything about that company just feels bad now.
Dark Souls
doesn't-
with Legend of Zelda puzzles. Yeah, I'd actually be pretty down with that.
Oh,
like,
that'd be cool.
yeah,
Dark Souls with Legend of Zelda puzzles is the Crown of the Sunken King. That's the one where you go through a temple that has like shoot the arrow into the
Dude,
ceiling
temples
panel
are
to
cool.
open a
More
door and
games should
stuff
have
like
temples.
So part of my problem
Big
with Dark
temples.
Souls with like puzzles though is like I agree with what you're saying. The problem is the combat kind of got in the way of the puzzles. So the puzzles were there, but it wasn't fun doing them because it felt like work just clearing the area around them so you could solve them, and then you do it, and it's like it either ended up being trapped or not good.
Actually, when I was playing ESO when they had the free trial that one weekend, I was going around a dungeon with my character, and in that game, yeah, every sentence that you choose like determines an outcome with the individual that you're talking with, or has repercussions for some time later on. So it's interesting seeing how those go. But I did enter the chamber of some dungeon, and there were symbols on the wall of different like sun phases and moon phases, and I had to press buttons on a pillar in the right way. It was a simple puzzle, but I was like, oh yeah, there's a little puzzle.
Like I like the idea of Dark Souls Legend of Zelda. I think it would just have to be less enemy dense, but it keeps the quality of the like actual combat.
I just want something colorful. I would love to play Darksiders with you guys if it was colorful.
Dark Souls, yeah.
Sorry, Dark Souls. See, I love the aesthetic of Darksiders.
Yeah.
That was done very well.
Sort of. The initial part for Darksiders sucks. Yeah. But once you start getting into the more interesting zones, it was cool. The moment you got out of New York City, why the hell did they set it on Earth in the first place? That was the dumbest decision ever.
Because
Bird, I think you're hitting a mic thing.
Someone's hitting a mic.
Am I?
I'm not. Let me see. Yeah, it's you. It's you again.
Nope.
Oh, no.
It sounds like a plug is rotating in its socket or something.
Yep.
I think maybe my chair rolled over my microphone cable.
Oh no!
Turning it, I guess. Sorry.
I'm actually kind of surprised you like the aesthetic of Darksiders, because a lot of it's really just gray.
I like the flashes of color that they had. Also, the modeling on the characters was well done.
There was an area in Darksiders, kind of midway through, where you run into like the first effectively giant dwarves, and that entire area was gorgeous. And then Darksiders 2 gets rid of the whole like earthy thing and actually had like a really nice vibe. Yeah.
And I mean, the angels were well done. I mean, the demons were interesting.
Yeah, the only thing that sucked about Darksiders 1 was the environment design. For like half of it. And the other half was actually surprisingly decent. It's just the problem is you had to get through that first. But that game had like a really good style. I have both of the art books? No, I just have the second art book.
You have the second art book.
Yeah, because the first one fell apart, so I never wanted to buy like a book that would fall apart within a couple of weeks.
I mean, perhaps it was because I grew up with Banjo-Kazooie and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, but those were just colorful games.
Speaking of colorful Zelda likes, I've been playing It'll Do Too. Very good. I've had a lot of fun playing that one, though the bosses are kind of the wrong kind of hard. Which is kind of a huge turnoff, because like one of them just spams missiles in every direction. And you have a dodge roll, but you just dodge half the missiles and get hit by the other half. And it's like, why even dodge at this point? Yeah, it's kind of frustrating.
That feeling when it just doesn't feel like it was actually designed, but they just added attacks and movements until they thought they had an encounter and then left it at that.
Yes. Yeah, the dodge roll specifically, I think, is the...
Gate of Memories approach to development.
The dodge roll is the worst part of the game, because you can only dodge roll through certain ranged attacks, and you have to kind of figure that out the hard way. And it also has like one of those where you finish rolling and you got like a little bit of a lag time, but you can also be hit in melee too with it, and it's just like, I don't want to dodge roll unless I have to, so I usually just like cheese it, or you have a staff that if you fire it, you reflect ranged attacks. So instead I sit there just mashing the staff button, being like, this is about as effective, but sometimes I hit the boss too, so it's probably the better choice. But like the actual puzzles are pretty good, and I've spent like 20 minutes being like, how the fuck do I slide these ice blocks around? Mainly because I suck at those, but I like that. I don't know.
What's kind of astonishing to me is I'm looking at Darksiders War Mastered on my PS4 right now, and it's 40 gigabytes.
Yes.
Wow.
How?
Textures.
How is a remaster of an Xbox 360 game that big? What did they do?
I mean, they downscaled all their textures and compressed them, and then the remaster is just they ship with the 4K textures.
Yep.
I always wonder sometimes, though, if sometimes the digital distribution and big disc sizes and stuff allows people to just not care about size and just be like, Like,
well,
it's not, because sometimes I think it might not even affect if it's fidelity, but just be like, we don't have to work to make it smaller.
I'm still cranky at EA for doing that with Titanfall, where it's just like, people have enough hard drive space to buy to install this. Or what
Ubisoft did with
because everybody does that,
Division.
Though, so nobody has hard drive space.
Yeah,
anymore.
I know. Like,
when every game is 50 gigs. There's no hard drive space anymore.
I actually have 3 external hard drives plugged into my computer now. 2 for videos, which I mean is my own business. I have one dedicated specifically to my Steam library, just so I can have every game installed, and so I don't have to like uninstall things randomly.
I want to say the games like Halo 5 and Division are bigger than GTA 5 now in size.
And I remember when you used to have a game cartridge in your game, was just saved on that.
All those
and
batteries are going dead and you can't save anymore.
Yeah, I don't miss the cartridge days. They were interesting, but they're not worth missing.
I think that the cool thing about the cartridge was that you could, for one, the console turned into a solid-state device, which to me as a nerd is, like, really cool. But that's neither here nor there. The thing I thought that was cool about cartridges was that they could ship with your own hardware on the cartridges and, like, upgrade the system, basically, for your game.
Yeah,
that's what they did on the SNES a couple of times.
I remember I had to get the special like graphics pack for Donkey Kong 64.
Yep.
Was it a graphics pack? Yeah, it was just extra RAM.
Yeah, you had to stick it into the back of your Nintendo 64 controller.
So I had to get that because I rented Donkey Kong 64 and I wanted to play it because I heard it was good. And I think one of my friends was playing it in front of me and I was like, this looks cool. And so I picked it up.
Cool.
I picked it up from Blockbuster, but I couldn't play it because I didn't have the pack.
You needed the 4K extra RAM, yeah.
At the time, this is well before I had a GameStop in the area, or at least knew of one. I mean, maybe there was, but my parents were never going to tell me because we'd only go to places if they were within walking distance. So pretty much my entire, like, early game library was purely from the occasional Amazon order and Blockbuster. So we go back to Blockbuster, and I'm like, so we need this thing. And so they sell me a Rumble pack.
Oh no!
That was the day where I was just like, fuck Blockbuster, and then I didn't buy like a single game for like I didn't buy a single game for like 2 years, and then I moved to North Carolina, and there was a GameStop in the local mall I could walk down to and pick up like Final Fantasy VIII for $9. And I did, and it was awesome, except for disc 3 was, like, irredeemably scratched. Which sucked, but, I mean, that was kind of the point where I'd already lost Steam on the game, so it was like,
I don't think anybody really misses the days of physical media.
Oh, I'm so glad digital downloads.
The only game that I'd ever gotten from Blockbuster was the special Blockbuster exclusive Beast Wars Transmetals fighting game. It was funny. They actually had all the original voice actors for it, too.
We rented so many games when I was young.
Shall we start to wrap it up? We've been going for nearly 2 hours now.
Yeah, I think the last one last thing is that related to the... because we've just been talking about old video games, one last question is, Anonymous asked, what's your most nostalgic game you eventually came back to and just hated?
One that I hated...
I mostly asked it because I already had an answer in mind, which is...
Okay.
As a kid, with my brother, I played Star Wars Jedi Power Battles, like, daily. And one day at a thrift store, I acquired a physical copy of it. And I'm like, I'm going to play this on my PS3, and we're going to try out Jedi Power Battles. And it's completely unredeemably unplayable.
Was that the PS1 game that I saw you streaming like a while back?
Yeah, it's a 2-player co-op, like basically a 3D brawler, where you play as Jedi and you just whack people. And you run around the story of Phantom Menace, basically hit people with lightsabers, and you can like block at the last second to deflect lasers back at their targets and stuff like that. But like the controls are unredeemable. The visuals are the worst of PlayStation 1 jank, where everyone has their textures flickering on their polygons and like nothing looks like it's fitting together by more than paper mache. And it just, the level design's awful, the boss design's awful, playing it feels terrible, and there's a lot of like, despite being a relatively easy brawler, it'll randomly throw you into these really, really difficult and tight platforming segments where you die instantly if you mess up. And, like, it's just... it's so not worth trying to play now.
I have two answers to that question. Both of these games are from when I was like really like maybe like 5 or 6 years old. The first one, Bubsy the Bobcat on the Sega Genesis, I think. On the Sega Genesis.
Not even Bubsy 3D.
No. But the original one sucked too. It was like a weird Sonic ripoff.
It was like a bad Sonic ripoff because you couldn't even like go fast. It was just like
it had falling damage.
Yeah.
You would die
I remember that.
fell.
Yes, I've seen a video of that where there was like an issue where like the screen real estate was way too close to your character, so you like you would just run into hazards basically.
Yeah,
yes.
you basically had like 4 screen like character widths on either side of you for the screen. And the other answer is another Sega Genesis title called Chuck Rock, which I loved a lot as a kid.
What a name!
It was about a caveman who his only attack was picking up rocks and throwing them at dinosaurs. And it was insanely hard. I played it as an adult, and it was really bad. And I got to like the first boss and died, and then just said, "I'm done." And it took me like 45 minutes to get to that point in the first level.
Oh no!
Bad. It was one of those games. Of course, these are coming back from the days where, like, if you died or lost the game, that was it. You had to start from the very beginning. There was no checkpoint system. There were no save games or anything like that. You just had to go.
Actually,
glad that's gone.
Thinking back to what you said about the cartridges and the saves, I wonder if some failure occurred with our Glover Nintendo 64 game.
Probably.
Potentially. Because...
I mean, you just open it up and put in a new watch battery.
Oh, okay.
It's good
I'll
as
have to
new.
look into that. Because I think my brother lost all his save data. And I would have to say that of all the games that I really played hours of it, trying my best to get done with it. And I mean, I haven't played it recently, but I'm pretty sure if I went back, I would still hate it. But I'd have to say it was Glover.
Yeah, Glover. Not age well.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
It's a reasonably popular game, but, like, in retrospect, it's a despised game.
Oh, I know. And I mean, there was so much that could go wrong. Your ball was your lifeline, and if it got damaged, it would have, the little bandages on it. But if it rolled off into Nowhere's Land, Glover would just go, wah! Like, point at the ball as it careens over the end, and you're just like, no, why? And the boss battles were unforgiving, and it was hard to navigate the levels because you had to constantly bounce up the ball with you, throw the ball. Sometimes the ball would arc the wrong way. Glover. I never got past the third stage, and there were 6, 8? I forget how many there were. There were all these themed worlds. Never got far enough.
For me,
I love that if you Google Glover game and image search, one of the top results, like only a page down, is Danny from Game Grumps just holding 8 copies of it.
Oh, that picture.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
I feel like part of the reason why people even remember that game is because it was such an available game. There was just so many copies made that it's just everywhere. So it has outlived, by force of will, many other games that are harder to get.
I just remember that being one of the first we had.
That one cube puzzle game on PlayStation 1 was probably really neat, but no one will ever find a copy of it ever again, so who knows? But Glover, man, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Wander, did you have one?
Shall we?
Chameleon Twist. As a kid, it was wonderful. As an adult, it's like, I can't tell where anything is. These textures are terrible. This level design is atrocious, and these controls are horrifying.
Oh god, I recognize this game.
I have
the most
what
amusing thing about Chameleon Twist is that the first game was a weird, ball person, and the second game, for the thrilling sequel, they suddenly thought, what if we made the main character look like a chameleon? It took the second game to realize that. The first one's just a weird bald person that has a long tongue, and they're both 64 games.
Yep. And as a kid, I thought they were amazing. The first level was this weird clown nightmare with like a rabbit and shit, and it was kind of okay. The second was an amusement park, and it gave me nightmares, and my dad decided to do a D&D campaign based on that, and I was so angry about that.
Ooh.
Oh, what did he do for the campaign?
It was dumb. We were fighting like anthropomorphic popcorn buckets. It was stupid. That was the last time I ever let my dad DM a campaign, because at this point I was in like 6th grade, and like I had been playing Chameleon Twists like 3 years prior.
Like Wander therapy.
Yeah, really.
It's like, what is your
I've been playing it like 3 years prior, and I think my dad hadn't quite come to grips with the fact that I was growing up.
Either. I don't like eating popcorn.
Oh yeah, I hate popcorn. It's disgusting. Caramel corn is perfect, but it's popcorn. But yeah, so my dad, I think, was trying to like make it all like kidsy and stuff, but like at that point I was already kind of on my way to adolescence, so it's just like,
teenagehood.
No, don't do this, Dad. And he's like, what? You don't like anthropomorphic popcorn? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, oh well. And then we kept doing it, and eventually I was just like, I'm gonna go play Game Boy. And
you
I
don't
did.
like popcorn? More popcorn.
That's what it was, and it was really annoying.
And then you moved to the middle of the country to escape the popcorn.
Nah.
Shall we close this out by listening to Oh No Necromancer one more time?
Okay.
Okay.
Whether we do or not, they will, because I'm putting it in.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I just hit the play button. Just as a reminder, seeing as we usually forget, send us questions, more questions.
Yeah,
this entire podcast was made out of your questions, and
Yeah,
It was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
this
liked
one
it too.
especially.
Yeah,
Questions are good because everyone can talk about questions, whereas only certain people have played or certain games or watched certain movies.
yeah. I do like being modern, so maybe if we do it like every other time just to collect questions, or just do it freeform, I don't know, whatever.
It's probably best to split each podcast between both, like open with talking about some games, then go to questions. But we had a lot of questions.
Yeah, we did. And
you
that's
go
good
to
too.
4nerds.tumblr.com/ask.
Yep.
That may not be the long-term question in the repository, but it was something that was easy to set up, and it works.
It's worked so
because
far.
all these questions are coming in.
And there will be a link in the description below, assuming Keith doesn't forget that.
If you don't have a Tumblr account, you just ask it anonymously by default, but you can type a name in the question itself if you for some reason want us to say who asked the question.
Yep.
That's always an option. That's
about the only way you'll get
Teddy
your name
did.
on any of our videos.
Yeah. That's the closest thing. This is your only way to get a shout out ever.
It's a shout out.
Because we hate shout outs, is that you can ask a question that we actually ask. And I'm not asking all of them. There are some garbage ass questions in here. That's not to say that. Now, if I haven't asked a question, that does not mean that we're skipping it intentionally, but some of them have been skipped intentionally.
Keith, I think you should collect all the garbage ones for one day. I think
there are
we
still
should
more of them in here.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
we should do a trash
day.
round.
Oh, yeah, trash round would be great.
So I should stop deleting them then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Collect them all, just sort them by good shit, boring shit, and amazing garbage.
There's some really dumb ones.
Yeah, those are the ones we want.
Oh, man. All right. Well, see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching.
Yep.
Bye.
Oh no, Necromancer. 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 Oh no, basically went like, oh no, Necromancer. Oh no, Necromancer. Basically, Necromancer.